Unvaccinated tennis players won't be given an exemption for next year's Australian Open. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews isn't apologising either for his hardline stance that could impact world number one Novak Djokovic.
The day started very brightly for Tennis Australia, the door seemingly wide open on an all-star lineup at Melbourne Park. A federal government green light for an unvaccinated player such as world number one Novak Djokovic to arrive in Melbourne and quarantine for 14 days. First, the PM.
If there is a special exemption that is warranted for an economic reason like that, well, that can happen, but you've got to follow the health rules in that state, and 2 weeks quarantine for unvaccinated people, well, that's sensible.
And then the Federal Health Minister.
And that's without fear or favour, and so then it's entirely a matter for the state or the state working with Tennis Australia.
A significant shift away from Federal Immigration Minister Alex Hawke's comments last week.
The government, in establishing its borders, has said that you'll need to be double vaccinated to visit Australia. That's a universal application, not just to tennis players.
Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews is criticising the change of stance.
Their position has gone 180 from what the Immigration Minister said, which at the time I agreed with. I've just been very clear, couldn't have been clearer.
Premier quickly killed off any chance of Victoria handing Djokovic an exemption unless he was fully vaccinated.
And what I want to make very clear is that the state of Victoria will not be applying for any exemptions for unvaccinated players.
But could there be a loophole? I asked the Premier about the possibility of a player of the ilk of Djokovic flying into Sydney, doing 14 days quarantine in New South Wales and then bunny hopping here to Melbourne Park.
Well, it's up to other states whether they apply for exemptions, but you'd have to speak to them. I can't control what other states do around those sorts of things. I can only give you absolute clarity. I'm not going to be telling people that because they're not vaccinated they can't go to the pub and then applying for an exemption for an unvaccinated player to come play tennis here.
Mark Stevens, Sky News.